Today's class. Mhm. Welcome again. As I said, before we do anything, we must discuss and explain some principles in object-oriented programming because in the advanced Visual Basic, our focus is to see how we can let you design applications, connect to databases using object-oriented programming in VB. Okay, so what is encapsulation? When I say encapsulation in VB, what am I talking about? What am I trying to explain? Encapsulation is simply my ability to hide the data away from another person. If I want to hide data as a class from you, another class, I would utilize encapsulation. Encapsulation allows me as a class to keep all pertinent data that has to do with me and me alone. Now, this point is very important. This point means that if I have a particular um, class. For example, on the screen here, I have a class. I can see public must inherit class user. And I can see here that I have a private underscore name, which is a class. And then I have a string variable over here. This class here, oh, sorry, this variable here has a modifier called private. So it is a private variable. The private allows me to hide the field, very importantly. So with private, it means that if you are not the must inherit, then you cannot have access to the name that I have over here. That means that in order for something to have access to the name, it must go through the public class in which I've created over here, or the public method in which I've created over here, in order to get access to the name. Now, you coding this way is very important. It means that nothing can get direct access to where you keep your data and your innermost thoughts. It means that you can protect your data. It means that if something wants to get access to your data, it has to go through a predefined rule set by you to get access to the data. That means you can check the data. That means you can format the data in a way you want to display the data to another user. And encapsulation, again, means keeping an object's data safe inside the class and only allowing access control through methods or properties. With that in mind, we move to the second definition and we'll see examples of all of these today. But the second thing we will talk about is the concept of inheritance. What does it mean for me to inherit? You see, if I write a particular class, if I write code for a particular item, if I write code for a particular item, I can replicate that code. I can reuse that code. I can reorganize myself for that code to be used again. In doing so, Or let me take it from another point of view. If let's say I'm writing code for an organization, the organization has employees, but it has different types of employees. There is management, there is all types of employees, all types of employees. And I have to write code for, I have to write code for the organization. The organization's employees are management. If we take a school, we have management, we have lecturers, we have students, we have the assistant staff or the senior members and the junior staff. We have different categories of employees. But no matter what category of employee you are, you would realize that you, as the employee, you have a name, you have a salary, you would have a name, you have a SNIT number, you have qualifications, you have certificates, you have various things in which everybody else would have. That means that if I have to code, I have to code employee has this, employee has that, and I'm coding for every single thing that each and every single employee has. It becomes tedious. Why don't I code everything on the employee? So that I would say if you are an employee in my organization, you must have a name, you must have a salary, you must have a department you belong to, so on and so forth. So that if you are a lecturer, then I can say that a lecturer has specific things in which other employees do not have. So if you are a lecturer, please go and take everything that we have as for the employee. So go to employee, take everything that we have for employee, and then maybe for the lecturer, maybe you get bonuses for teaching certain credit hours. So if you teach for certain credit hours, then you get a bonus. Now, I am inheriting everything here. That means that everything here immediately comes here. I don't have to go and retype it. I don't have to go and redo it. But by me telling the computer, go and inherit everything in employee, it means that whatever method, function, variable, or rule that I have given to employee, immediately the lecturer also has those same rules and methods assigned to it. Those things attached to it immediately. And we are going to code like that going forward. Another rule that is given in VB is the concept of polymorphism. Polymorphism allows you to create a method, but the method that you create, you can give it many forms. That's giving it many behaviors. Because sometimes the behavior of a method can change. Let's have an example of this. On the screen, I have some code. The code in which I have says that I can give a greeting. Now, if you are a student, then your greeting should be welcome students, good luck with your studies. If you are a staff, the greeting should be welcome staff name, thank you for your service. At the end of the day, all I care about is saying, go and get me the greeting. It is the computer's job to figure out is the person a student or a staff. And depending on what that person is, the appropriate greeting would be given to him or her. Now, with polymorphism, it means that I can create the method in such a way that it can have many forms and many meaning to different users. Does that make sense? Let us see how we can combine all of these things into something meaningful for us. Today, we are going to develop an application. The application would have 3 windows. So I have window number 1, window number 2, window number 3. The first window is going to be meant to introduce a user. So it will welcome a specific user to our organization. The second window is going to serve as a display form, a details form. So it is in that window that someone can go and then type in his or her details. And the last window would be a greetings window where the person will get a greeting message and a button to click to go back. So we have 3 different windows. What we are doing is we are going to be building a greetings app, an application to help someone greet and then sign up into our organization. So what we are building is a small campus registration and greeting app. That's the idea. On the screen, I have a small write-up scenario of what we are going to do. I would beg one of you to read the scenario for us to give us a perfect idea of what we want to do. There is no one willing to read it for us.
Okay, so let me go ahead. Scenario: small campus registration and greeting app. Imagine a university department wants a quick on-campus desktop tool to welcome new members, both students and staff, and store their basic details for internal greetings or small-scale record keeping. 1. Reception desks or welcome kiosks. A new student or staff member arrives. They They are welcomed on the screen by the welcome form and click enter details to begin. 2. Details entry by the new member. On the details form, the person enters name, email, chooses role, student or staff, provides one extra piece of information, program of study if student, department if staff. The app validates every field. For example, checks for a valid email. 2. Once saved, the system creates a user object, either a student or staff class. 3. Personalized greeting or summary. The display form instantly shows a custom greeting bracket different message for staff or versus for student versus staff. A full summary of the details they provided. Hello?
This is what we are going to build. This application. The first thing I will do is that I would clear my screen. I would go and open my Visual Studio 2022. I'll open up my Visual Studio and I will create a new project. I would make sure that I have my Visual Studio 2022 on VB and I have a Windows Forms application selected. If to make life easier for me, I'll come here, select VB, select Windows, select desktop, and here I'll look for Windows Forms app, not the template, but the Windows Form app. Yeah, and then I will click on it, and then I will go and click on next. In here, I'll give my project a name, and then I'll click on next. I'll choose the version of .NET I want to use, and then I'll click on create. The computer will then go on to create my application for me. Wonderful. I'll wait for some time for it to load. So over here, I'll go to my Solution Explorer. Note that if there's something here that you can't find, you can always go to View. They are all there for you to click on it to open it so that you can view it. In my Solution Explorer, I would go and right-click on the forms.vb. And when I right-click on it, I will change the name of my form from just form to welcome form. Welcome form.vb. Do I want to do this? Yes. So I've changed everything to welcome form. So I have my form over here. I would right click on my project and then I will go to add and I will look for Windows form and then I'll select the Windows form and I want to create another form called details.vb. So I've created another one called details.vb. I want to create another one. Oh, did I close the Windows form? What is going on? Let me open it again. So, with this. Perfect. So I want to create another one. So again, I'll come to my Solution Explorer. I would right click, go to Add, go to Windows Form. And then in here, I will make sure I have Windows Form selected. And if I have Windows Form selected, I will go and change the name to display.vb. And then I have this. With this, I have all the forms I need. Remember, I said we are going to have 3 forms. So I have my 3 forms for me to use to develop what I want to develop. We said that the first form is going to welcome a user to our application. So the first form, I need to have a label. So I'll go to my toolbox and put a label over here. I would click on properties. If you can't find properties, you can right click and go and click on properties here. And I want the text property so much so that I'll say welcome to class, to BB University. So I have been able to change the name to Welcome BB University. I also want to change the font of it, and I want to make the font a bit bigger. Let me see if I make it 20. And then I would make it a bit bold. So I'll make here true. I think 20 is okay, so I can put it in the middle over here. And then I'll go for a button, and I'll put the button over here. I would scroll the button so that the button is a bit bigger. And then in doing so, I'll come and click on properties. And then in properties, I want the size of the button to be 16. And I also want it to be bold. And then I want the text property of the button to say enter details with an arrow. So enter details so that it looks like this. Quite nice. Now I can move to my details form. In my details form, I can let the person fill the form information. So again, I'll go for a label. The label would be somewhere here so that I can go to the properties and look for the text property and say, please fill in your details. At the top, I'll go for the font and I'll change this from 9 to 12, or let me make it 14, and then I'll make it a bit bolder. I'll go for the label again and let it be here. Then I'll click on the label and then I'll change the properties of the label from 9 to 12. And then I'll make the label bolder. And then I would say that the text property of the label should read as name. But the most important thing on this page, that is the name property of the label, should be LBL name. with a capital letter N. So LBL name. That means this is the system name and the text property here is the name that will be showing over here. I would go for an input because it is an input tag. So I'll go and look for an input, and then that's the text property. Oh, yes, the text box. And then I'll pick the text box, and then I'll stretch out the text box a bit so that it looks a bit nicer. I'll come to properties, and I'll come for the font, and I'll make the text in which is being entered 12. And then over here, I'll not make it bold. I'll leave it like that. And then the name property of the text box, I'll make it txt name so that I know that this is the text box. I will copy the two. I'll press Ctrl C, I'll press Ctrl V, and I'll put it under here so that I can easily just change this label here to email. And then I can also change the property here to LBL email. And then over here, I'll change this one to sorry. I'll change it to TXT email. Wonderful. The next thing in which I have to do is the role of the individual. So I'll copy the role of the individual over here and put it here. And so I'll just change this to LBL role. And then over here, I'll change the wording over here to role. And over here, it is going to be a combo box. So I'll have to go for a combo box. And then I'll stretch this one out. I'll stretch this one out. I'll bring it up a bit. I'll tell the computer that the font size of the combo box should be 12. And then over here, I'll click here so that I can enter the items of the combo box. It is going to be students, and it is going to be staff. And I'll press OK. I'll go on for another label and text. So here I'll go for this. So that I'll put it over here. So that over here, I'll change this one to the person's position. And then over here, I'll highlight this and bring them to the side a bit. So that's this one can come here a bit. Lovely. This one should join them. Lovely. Now, I'll click on this and I'll change the property to TXT position. Wonderful. Now, I have to go for another thing, and that is the button. So I'll go for the button. And then I'll put the button over here. I normally like my buttons to stretch as big as my thing. So I'll do that. And then I would come and put in the font. I'll change it to 12. The name property, I'll go and make it BTN save. And then the name property,
or the text property, which would be somewhere over here, I'll say save and continue. So that here I can make it a bit larger. The save is small s, so it doesn't make it look nice. So let me just change it to capital S. Great. So I have done and I've designed my details form. I've designed the home form. The home form, I forgot to give these ones their properties. So let me just do it. This one is going to be BTN save. Oh, or BTN, let me call it start. And then over here, yeah, let me come over here. Now, for the last one, we want to have a display form, right? A display form. So I'm going to say text box. And then in the text box, I'm just going to say, thank you. Or let me just put the feedback. Of course, the feedback, I have to change the font and make it a 12. And then I have to change the boldness and make it true. Now I'll put another label over there. And the label over here is going to serve as my greeting, like the greeting that the person will see. So I'll click here. I'll go and click on font. I'll make the font 12 and I'll make it bold. But what I will do is I will remove all the writing from it so that no one can see that it is there. I'll also go for a text box. And then I'll put the text box over here and then I'll make it multi-line so that I can stretch out the text box a bit like this so that I can put the details over there. And then I'll click on the text box, go to properties and call the text box TXT summary. And then I'll come in here and have a button where the button could be here for me to be able to come to properties and give it a system name called BTN back. BTN back. And then over here, I can have this where I would say back to welcome. I am done. Now, if I run my application, I think I will get an error. Let's see. Did I get an error? You have some build errors. No, I don't want to continue. So I have an error over here. And that is because somewhere here, the computer still thinks that my application is running from Form 1. But remember that we changed the name from Form 1 to Welcome Form. So now that I have changed it here, if I run it, I shouldn't have any errors. Please remember, the coding is not just about writing code. You must know when errors are coming. You must know why the errors are there. You must be comfortable. So here's the application. I have this. The objective is that when I click on this, something should happen. And what should happen is it should take me from this page to the page in which the person will fill the form. So let us solve that. Let us write the code so that we can leave that page and go to the page where the person can fill the details in the form. In doing so, I am here. What would you do before you get there? You would click on this button. So I'll double tap this button and it brings me to this window where I see a sub. A sub is a method that doesn't return any data. So this doesn't return any data. And the sub is for me to click a particular button. On the event that I click the button, what am I going to do? And here is where I would write the code for what I will do when I click on the button. Are we okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now I must write my code. Is there a question in the thing? Okay, there's no question.
Okay, yes, please.
One second, I'm coming. Be with you in just a second. Okay, so now if I click on the button, this is what I want to do. I want to leave Windows form.vb, which is a class. Don't forget that. To this section here, which is also a class called details form. So I will tell the computer that whilst I am in Windows form, I'll tell the computer that, okay, I am creating an instance of the form. So these details I have over here is the class. I want to use it. So I'm creating an instance of it. Hence, I'm creating an object. So I'll tell the computer name, details as new details form. And then I have my curly brackets over here showing that I'm creating a details form class using a constructor. In here again, I'm going to click on here and tell the computer that when you go and take the object I've created called details, I want you to use the show method. That means show it. Now, if I leave it like how it is right now, and I click here, you would still see everything runs, there are no mistakes. But when I come over here and I click the button here, I would see this pop up here, but this is still there. I don't want that scenario. So since I have created an object of it, I can use it. So I can say the thing I've created, show it, and then to show it. But I want the computer to know that after you show me it, where I am, that is the me, go and hide me. So now when I run this piece of code again, and I have run it, it is running, and I go and click on this button, it will show this one and hide the one in the back. And hide the one in the back. Interesting. Are we all here? Did we all understand that? Great.
Yes.
So now I'm back here. I also want the scenario whereby when I'm in the details form and I click on this one should also take me to the welcome. So I have dim W page as a new display form. And remember, it's a constructor, so you need the parentheses behind it. And the details of it, the W page dot what? Show. And I also want to say me. Remember, when I say me, I'm referring to the class I am in. So in this case, when I say me, I'm talking about details form. So me dot what? Hide. That means that now when I click on this application again and it runs, I can easily navigate through my entire application. That is, I can click here, I can click here, and I'm in all the parts of the application I just created. Does that make sense to us all here? Any questions on what we have done so far?
I know, sir.
Yes? There are no questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
You are creating this using the Windows form, right? Not the .vnet.
No, I'm using the Windows form.
Oh, okay.
Why, you people, when you were doing it, you didn't use Windows form?
We were using the .net, the VB this thing, .net.
You were doing web applications?
Yep.
Are you sure? Are
You
you sure
know,
you were?
I was having an issue with my laptop by then.
Okay.
So yeah, but
Are you,
if I
are you,
remember correctly, we're using the VB.net.
are you sure? Can anyone confirm that? What were you using? Because the day students were also using Windows Form.
We use Windows Form.
Yeah, I know you use Windows Form because the coding for the web interface, the .NET, is a bit different from this. It's basically the same, but it's a bit different because that one you'd have to write HTML code. Were you writing HTML code?
No, sir, we didn't write HTML code.
Yeah, you were not writing HTML code. Or you want us to write the HTML code one?
No.
Just stick to what you're doing.
We can add it. It's not a big deal, though. It really isn't a big deal. Mm. So, in order for us to do this application and run it perfectly, because now we know how to navigate through the applications one after the other, we have to create our environment that we'll be using throughout our application. The first thing we'll do is we'll create an interface. We would create an interface. An interface is a class. An interface is a class. But it has specialized duties. So an interface in programming, an interface is like a contract or a blueprint that defines what a class must do, but not how it will do it. It contains method signatures that are parameters, return types, and so on and so forth, and sometimes constants too, but no method implementations. And any class that implements the interface must provide its own implementation for every method defined in the class. So the first thing I will do is I will create an interface. Now, the reason I'm creating the interface is so that all the other classes can share from the interface. And remember that this application will be used by both students and then staff. So by me creating an interface, I can create the same method but different implementations for different users. So over here, I'm going to right click on my project again. I'm going to add, and I'm going to add class. And in here, I'm going to tell it that the class is going to be an interface. And the name of my interface is going to be I, because all classes must start with a capital letter. So capital I, and then member. So that's the name of my interface. And when I'm done, I'll click on add. So I've created the interface member. Remember, I selected interface so that the computer knows that this is an interface. Remember, interface is a class, basically, but it's a specialized class. Great. Now, interface, as we just read,
Sir, please check your spelling, just in case you are trying to call it again. The spelling is wrong.
Oh, yes, I spelled it wrong. Oh, let me spell it again. Let me do it again. Because if I don't, I'll always have to remember that I added B somewhere. So this one, let me just delete it. And then let me create it again. So class, interface. And then the name of it is this. .vb. Add. Good, now I'm fine. So in here, I'm going to create a property. And it is going to be named as a string, of course. Then I'm going to create another property, and it is going to be email as a string. Then I'm going to create a function, and it is going to be called get greeting. And it is going to be also a string. And I'm going to get another function. It is going to be called get summary. And it is also going to be as a string. Now, we can see here that I didn't do the then and put any things in them. I'm just defining them. And since it knows that this is an interface, it knows that with an interface, you just define them. You don't put in any code. You just define them. It is just a contract. You don't, you're saying that if you are a member of this interface, these are the things in which you should what have. we are going to add another 2 classes because we want to code with in object-oriented way. So we need 2 more classes. I'll right-click here, go to add, and I'm adding another class. In this case, it is a class, it's not an interface. And I'm going to call this class student. I'm going to add another one. So a class, and I'm going to call this class staff. So now I have student, I have staff. Now, let's start with student. In my class student, I'm going to tell the computer that it implements iMember. So the moment I say it implements iMember and I press enter, you can see that it is telling me that I need to have a name, I need to have an email, I need to have gets, I need to have this, I need to have these things in them by force. Now, I would prefer to create the methods myself, so I will delete them and create them myself. Yes, what's the question, Alfred?
I say. So should that mean that the contract is basically to guide you not to make errors when you are designing your classes?
No. It's basically the interface is not there to make you meet errors, but it is there for uniformity.
Okay.
And then it also promotes abstraction, whereby I can tell you in your organization that we have particular methods that we use. We have get greeting, get summary, get this, payroll, that. But as to how they work, it is based on every individual class and how they would implement it. So we all know that in implementing our code, we can type get greeting. But based on the circumstance you are in, the get greeting will have a different form. So you will never know what form, how we pick the data, how it works, the inner workings. You will never know that, but you know you have get greeting.
Okay.
So in a high sense, it makes your data more secure.
But can you design without it?
Oh, you can design without it, but it's not advisable.
Okay, but then it makes it more readable and it makes your code make more sense.
It makes your code more readable. It makes your code more. It gives like
a high level overview of all your.
No, I don't know how to say this, but let's say you and I were coding, and
Okay.
let's say you and I had 2 parts of the same organization to code for. So you had to deal with students, I had to deal with staff. Now, basically, because students and staff will be doing some similar things, we would want the methods we use to be similar. But if we have a method like get details, the information you will get for students and the information I will get for staff will be totally different. So I can't force you to have the definitions here. But I know that the word we are using is get details. So I will use get details, you would use get details. But as to how it will be used will be different for all of us.
Okay.
We will see it here.
Okay.
So in here, I'm going to tell the computer that this should be public, should be a property, and we are using name as a string, and it implements from iMember dot name. We are also using email, and it implements from iMember as email. And then we are using public, property, program, as string. Please give me 1 second there. 1 second. So I have this for student. Over here, I have the public, and I'm coming to deal with the function now. Function, get greeting as a string, and it implements of iMember.getGreeting, and we are going to return $, so I'm doing it in format, welcome, the person's name, best wishes in then the person's program. And over here, I'll put the program of the person over here. And a full stop. We also have to tell the computer that we are utilizing the function gets summary as a string, which also implements iMember.getSummary. And then in here, we are also going to return some few things. We have $ into double quotes, the name of the student. So here I'll put in name. I will add VB space and $ email. So I'll put in the person's email over here. I'll add this. We are also putting in the person's role that they play. So the role of the student. In here, I'll also put in the role is students. So student. And then I'll put this here again, and then we want the person's program. The program of the person here. The program. Yes. So as you can see from this, Alfred, over here I have
the spelling of the program. The last one.
Thank you. As you can see, Alfred, over here I have the contract. That means that since this is implementing this, it has to have all forms of the contract. So it has all forms of the contract, right? Now, even though you have all forms of the contract, you can also add your own. So here we have program. The contract doesn't have program here, so it has added program. You can see that since I did every single thing about the contract in here, I don't have an error over here anymore. Once this one was there like this, I have an error because it is telling me that I must implement all forms of the contract. It is even telling me here that I have not implemented every member of the contract. The moment I implement that member, I don't have an error anymore. If I go to staff, I need to also implement all portions of the contract to staff. To staff, everything over here is near the same as the one it is to students. So I'll copy it out. The only thing is that with staff, I don't have program over here, but rather I have a department over here. Over here too, I'll have to change this to what? I'll have to change the entire message here because the message I am giving a staff is different from the message I'm giving a student. For staff, I'm saying hello, and then I'm putting the name of the staff over here. And then in here, I'm saying thank you for your contribution to, and then in here, I'll put in the department the staff belongs to. So if I go and call upon get greeting, based on who you are, you would see get greeting, but the information you will see will be different to you. And what kind of property do we use to show that polymorphism? So over here again, I have this, and then for staff, I have the name, the email. This person is going to be what? Staff instead of student. And then over here, instead of having a program over here, the person will have a department. Oh, I didn't bring the $sign in front of it. That is why this didn't. That means that here too, I have to bring the $sign in front of the program, else I'll get an error. So it looks like this. So now I've implemented my I have implemented all my classes. I've implemented all my classes. Perfect. So now I can start putting my code together. And in doing so, I will go and do this. I would click here and I'll create another class. And this class is very, very important. The name of the class is going to be called App State. And what I'm going to do in App State is quite simple. I'm going to tell App State that I'm creating a public property, and it is going to be called the current member, and it is going to be of data type my interface. Now, let's see how our applications comes into Spark. The first place the person will come would be this place. And in this place, we have done everything in which we have to do over there. As apart from one thing, we will tell the computer that in here, we have a private state as app state. And then in here, I'm going to put in here the state. here it's a new one, so I have to put in new here. Great. I'm going to put in the state. So why do I have an error over here? Let's see. Too many arguments in public sub new. I have too many arguments in public sub new. Do I? Let's see. Okay, let me run it and see why it is giving me an error. No. Too many arguments in public start new. Why is it giving me this error? By the way, I hope you can see we all get errors. And when I got my error, I didn't say I'm stopping the coding or something, but I'm trying to figure out why the error is there.
Does a detail form accept an argument?
It's coming from here.
Yeah.
I think it is coming from here. There was something I didn't do there. So public property current member as this makes sense. There's no error over here. So why is there an error over there?
So I noticed the error was saying details member forms is accepting more arguments. Detail form, yeah. So I think it's either it's not accepting an argument or it's accepting more than the state.
Okay. So we can run it without the argument. But if we want to run it without the argument, it means that we have to do f.state, or we have to do details dot state is equal to state. And do it this way. By the way, what I'm trying to do is this. You see that this form I have over here, okay? And this form I have over here, and this form I have over here are all classes on their own. And I want to transfer information from each of the form. So by me creating the state, it means that the state will take information regardless of each of the form and save it there, so that each of them can go and retrieve information from there. Is that okay? I don't know why it is not coming. Let's see. What did I not do right? So over here, I have details. I don't type something right or something. Let's see. Details dot state. gets or sets a value, whether it should be minimized or not minimized, not that one. So dot state equal to state. But it is saying that this doesn't exist. State is not a member. Let me see why. One second. Okay. Do it this way. Regardless of it, not working. One second. I believe it's capital S. It still doesn't work. See. Or is it looking for me to do this? Let me see. Here, I'll put the state in here. And then the form, I'll put the details. I'll also put the state there. And will that have an effect here? No, it doesn't. It would work. Windows Phone. Okay, so if I put state here, Since it is now over here, it means when I come in here, I should be able to say state is equal to state. Let me see if I add this really work. Where's the details for? Good work now. See, right here I said it is power private, so you have to do it public. I think if I do that, then here I should be able to recognize it. So here I can write state. That means that for all of them, they have to be public. Perfect. Once I am running them through all of them, they all have to be public. And if they are public, then you can see it and use it. Perfect. So now I can run my code and I don't have any error. Perfect. When I click, it will open this one for me. Lovely. So now I'm good to go. Now I can focus on the details page. I can focus on the details page. Okay. Now in the details page, let's see what we can do here. When the person clicks on the button, we want to do some things before we take him to the next place. So I want to say div M as a member. And I want to say if the combo box or combo rule, did I give the combo box a name? Let's see first. So details for combo. What property did I give it? Oh, okay. So let me give it combo rule. Good. So that over here I can say if the combo rule dot text is equal to student. That means that if the person selected a student, because yeah, then M is equal to new student with the following details. So dot name is equal to txt name dot text, comma, dot email is equal to txt email dot text. Then it also means that the person's program is equal to txt position. Yeah. Dot what? Text. Perfect. Perfect. Now, if the person is not a student, then he's a staff. So M is equal to new staff with the following. And just like the student, I can do the following. So dot name, I can do all of these things. But remember, with students, we don't have program. We have department. Perfect. So you see that we will all refer to the member, but in member we already have these things in them already. So we can use either student or staff because they are all picking from the same interface. But the details we'll pick from each will be different. But regardless of the details we'll pick, their implementation is the same. So we don't have to worry about the implementation. We know that whatever you have implemented, I can still use it because the methods and variables I'll be using are the same. So in here, I can just go on. So here it is supposed to be else if or else. So that over here, I'll have the end if. Perfect. Now, state dot current member is equal to M, so that we know that the current member who is going through the entire application is M. Then from here, we can just tell the computer that take us away from here and take us to the display page. In the display page, we want the W page to be equal to dot state to be equal to our current state. Perfect. Then we have this, so that will take us there. And then when we get over there to where there is the display, here, we want to be able to display the information that we have done in here. We want to be able to display the information that we have done. So in there too, I'll come in here. The display part too, I'll need a button because I'll need to go back to the form. So I'll do them. Let's see, welcome as welcome form. And then in welcome form, I need to say w.show. And okay, I forgot to bring the new over here. That's why it didn't come. So new welcome form. And then over here, I would say me dot hide. So it will hide itself. And then in the method itself, I have to write the code for when the form loads. So when the form loads, we have to check if there is a state. So if there is a state and it is nothing, dot or dot or state. There will always be a state. So do I really have to bother myself with this? I don't have to bother myself with this. I don't have to think of this. So over here, we just have to give the greeting. So LBL, LBL, what did we call these things here? Let's see, we display. I called this thing here, nothing. Here, I gave it a message. It was LBL display or something like that. The one in which I hit, so it was LBL. What did I even call it? There is in the display, there was something here. So the properties, I called it label. So let's call it LBL greeting. Good. And then the text box, what did we call it? We call it TXT summary. That's fine. So over here, I want LBL greeting. And then I want the text property of LBL greeting to be equal to whatever that is in the state dot the current member dot get greeting. So whatever is in current member dot get greeting, we are going for it. Then in here, I have the text property summary dot text, which is equal to the current state dot current member dot get summary. And that will also get the summary for us. Perfect. So basically, this is our app done. If I am to run this, I would see this. I'll click here. I'm in here. It says, what is your name? Let's say Ama. And then what is your email? It is ama at gmail.com. What is your role? And when I click here, I can click on student. And what is your position? Let's say learner. Let's say student. So when I click on save, it will tell me that welcome, Ama, best wishes at your student program. And then these details will fill here with the student and all of those things that it is filling here with. When I click here, I'll come back here for me to come and continue my app. You see, what I have just done, I have written the code using object-oriented principles. I'm not just coding anymore. I am hiding away the code from people. If you come and see this code, where the message is coming from, you will not know. You will think it is coming from current member. But current member, when you go and check it, it is coming from app state. When you go for app state, you see nothing here. So you go to iMember. When you go to iMember, you don't see any implementation of the code over there. So since you don't see any implementation of the code over here, the complexities of my code is hidden away from you as an attacker or as someone who wants to steal my code to implement your own solution to a particular problem. Understanding object-oriented rules are very difficult. I will accept that. But with time, you would realize that it makes coding easier, because if you take the pain in doing the hard work, once the hard work is done, like how I implemented it in the details form over here, all I had to do is say name is this is that, this is that, and it takes control and takes over everything that it is supposed to do for me. I don't even have to think of what I want to do. And you can see that if I run my application again, so I'm running my application again, and I click here, and I see the person's name is Ama. The person's email is ama at gmail.com. I say the person is a staff, and I say the person belongs to the IT department, and I click here. It tells me that the person's role is staff. The system knows what I'm doing, because based on the information I'm choosing, it is triggering based on what I want to use. This semester, these are some of the things we'll be doing. We'll be taking our time to break system down, to understand them on the conceptual level. We're not going to just say this is encapsulation, then use. We would use it. We would see how we would build applications that would work with a database. We'll build all of those things. And we'll build them using the principles that govern coding so that we'll know them. in our professional life. Are there any questions, please? If there are no questions, then as always, thank you for spending your weekend with me, and we would meet on campus next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.